What's up, y'all? Today we're talking about rowing beyond failure and should you incorporate this into your training. So we're going to talk about the pros, the cons, why you should or shouldn't do this. I'm going to put a full workout here. It was 5 sets of Helms rows and 5 sets of chest supported rows, all beyond technical failure. So the first pro is that the strength curve of most rowing movements gets more difficult as you go. So in the bottom position, it's fairly easy.
Unless they happen to be power bottoms.
And it gets more and more difficult as you pull upwards, to the point where the most difficult part of the range of motion is in that very top contracted position. This means that if you only row to technical failure, you're failing in that top part of the range of motion, but the entire other part of the range of motion, you're still good to go, bro. Therefore, it might make sense to actually go beyond failure, to where you're trying to get full range of motion, but you're failing. But you're still training the part of the range of motion that you can still do. Next, number 2, the lats and the traps are very, very durable muscles. So you hear about people popping their pecs and
the percolating pectorals, huh? Do you want them?
Yes, that's
well,
what I
then
want.
touch them.
I
If you
want
want them, touch them.
I don't want to.
Yeah, touch them.
People
Touch them.
Yes.
and popping their hamstrings and stuff like that. You don't hear about people popping their trap or tearing their lat very often. It might happen during a deadlift, but usually not during a lighter chest supported or Helms row. So it's a very safe movement, and I think this is something where it's appropriate to go beyond failure. On a barbell bent over row, I wouldn't really suggest going beyond failure, because one of 2 things will happen. First, you will start to cheat, taking tension away from the muscles that you actually want to target. Or 2, your posture will give out. Again, taking tension away from the muscles you want to target, and also possibly putting you at risk for injury. With a chest-supported variation, this is not possible, making it very, very viable to actually go beyond failure. Next, it teaches you hard work. I see a lot of people, when things get difficult, they just give up. Or when they get a slow rep, they just give up. Or when they hit this technical failure, they just give up. And usually, if you're beyond technical failure, that's not a good thing. But in this case, it is. If you tell someone, pull until you are a sniveling pile of human meat flesh, that is going to be a better effort than, oh yeah, just pull until you can't fully contract the rhomboids or you lose your mind-muscle connection. However, there are some negatives. The first is that it does take longer to recover from. And when you first try this rowing beyond failure kind of thing, I would not do 10 sets. In fact, maybe just do 2 or 3 sets, or perhaps even just 1 set. That is definitely going to be enough. The second is that because you are focusing on the muscle, you're going to failure and then just keep going to failure, you're not necessarily working that postural part of the range of motion, that chest up, shoulders back, revival fitness kind of thing. Number 3, it's not needed for progress. However, you might see better progress from going beyond failure, or you might see worse progress. It's hard to say, but it's worth trying in your program. Finally, it's harder to track progress. If you always have the same technique and you're always rowing to that point where you can't get that full range of motion, it's much easier to track progress. And if you're going beyond failure, it's hard to say, is this an 8 rep set or a 10 rep set or a 12 rep set, when those last few reps are a little bit different from the first few. So all in all, these kinds of high intensity techniques that go beyond failure, they're certainly not needed in most cases, but they might be able to get you slightly better results or optimize the time efficiency of your workouts. Often when you're only training to technical failure on some movements like this, it's just realistically not that hard of an effort. Even if it's to failure, a set of failure on pull downs, again, similar to rows, this whole part of the range of motion is pretty easy. And then this part, the scapular retraction, is much more difficult. So if you go, technical failure, well, you're not really truly exhausting the muscle, because all this shit is still good to go.
I've heard that speed has something to do with it. Speed has everything to do with it.
Anyway, if you're interested in more high intensity techniques to bring your workouts to another level, definitely grab my book. It is available on my website for a mere $15. Yes, $15. It's priced like a normal book.
This pissed me off.
All in all, I think this is worth incorporating into your training at least a few times, at least to see if it gets you any extra results. It's not 100% needed, but it could be something that brings value to your trading. All right, that is all for this day. Yes, and I will see you in the next video. Peace. Nailed it.